this video, we'll be replacing the radiator in a Dodge Caravan. First thing you're going to want to do is drain the coolant. You want to make sure you have a pan down there to catch it, and he's just turning that petcock there to open it up so that he can drain the coolant out. Then you're going to remove the lower radiator hose and just be careful. Even though it's been draining, there's probably a little bit of fluid that's going to come out of there. Yeah. Then you're going to remove the push pins to get that front cover off. And then you're going to want to remove the hood latch. You want to mark its location. He's just using like a Sharpie or something there so that you don't have to readjust it for the hood opening when you put it back on. This way you can just put it back on and everything should work as it did before. You're going to need to remove the upper radiator support. And there's about 10 millimeter bolts that you'll have to get out. It helps if you have some kind of a power tool. It makes it faster, but you can do this with just a ratchet. Then you can remove that support, and you'll notice that there is a cable holding on your latch. You'll need to remove that cable from the latch and then pull it through that support piece so that you can get it off.
Opening right here, and then it goes into this arm right here.
Yeah. Okay.
Then you're going to need to disconnect the two electrical connectors for the cooling fan. And then you'll remove the upper radiator hose. You're also going to need to remove the coolant overflow tank. And disconnect that hose that goes to the radiator itself. And then you can pull that bottle out.
This is the condenser.
Yeah.
We need to separate the condenser from the radiator. They have these lock tabs right here.
So to separate that, for those clips, you're going to need to use a pair of pliers to pinch that clip closed, and then something to pry it to push it off of that. You'll see he's just got a pair of pliers there to pinch them closed. Just be careful that you don't break those clips. And then you're going to need to remove the radiator fan. And there is a 10 millimeter bolt. And then you just have to kind of be patient and wiggle it back and forth a little bit until you can get it out. Then you're going to need to remove the plastic grill cover, and that's so that you can get to the clips for the cooler line. And there's just 4 push pins and then a couple of clips that hold it in place. And then that piece should come out. And then you can access the clips again to remove that cooler line. Then you can remove the radiator. And again, this is just kind of a process of moving it back and forth and being careful, and then pulling it out. Once you have the old one out, you're going to install those air deflectors onto the new radiator. They usually don't come with them. And then you're going to install the new radiator. Slide that back in. Be careful again, putting that back in.
Trying to line those clips there. Or...
Yeah, so on the bottom you got that part that sticks out of the condenser, the metal piece that kind of sticks out straight this way. And then you see the little arm on the plastic radiator where that goes into.
Yeah.
So yeah, line that up and get that to go in there.
And then once you get that radiator lined up, you should be able to get that condenser to line up with those clips, and you're just going to simply push the condenser back onto those clips that are part of the radiator. And then you can attach those clips for the cooler line as well. You'll just be able to push those back on. Then you're going to need to install the radiator fan. Again, just be careful putting that back in. Might take some maneuvering. You get that lined up. Then you can reconnect the cooling fan connectors. There's 2 plug-ins there. And reconnect those. Just reinstall that little rubber air deflector that was on top. And then you can reinstall the overflow reservoir and hook that drain tube back up to the radiator. Reinstall the upper radiator hose. Just make sure you slide those clamps back up, hold it in place. And then the same with the lower radiator hose, reconnect that and slide that clamp back up. You'll need to reinstall that bottom grill that you took out. And again, there are just 4 push pins there. And then you're going to thread that cable for the hood release back through and put that bracket back on that holds the radiator in place. And that support takes those 10mm bolts. There's 10 of them. You're just going to tighten them to, tightness of 7 foot-pounds. So you can just tighten those by hand until they're tight. Then you'll have to reconnect that cable onto the latch itself. And then tighten that mounting bracket to 7.4 foot-pounds. Remember to line it up with those lines that you made previously, and then the hood should work just as it did when you took it off. And then you're going to need to fill the coolant, so you're going to add coolant in. You're going to need to run the engine, heat it up, let it take in that coolant. You want to burp the air out of it. Once it's full, you just put the cap back on, and you're ready to go.